My name is Adelaide Wright, and I'm 76 years old. I spent 41 years as a certified public accountant, managing books for small businesses, preparing tax returns, and auditing financial statements. I retired with $480,000 in savings, a paid-off house, and a mind trained to notice when numbers don't add up. My instincts about finances have been sharp my entire life. Which is why what happened 2 months ago should have been my first warning sign, but it took me embarrassingly long to realize what it meant. I was having coffee with my son Raymond when I mentioned wanting to review my quarterly investment statements. I'd been feeling like I hadn't checked my accounts in a while, and as a former accountant, I like to stay on top of things. I should log into my accounts this weekend, I said casually. It's been a few months since I reviewed my portfolio allocations. Raymond's response was immediate and a little too enthusiastic. Mom, don't worry about that. I've been monitoring everything for you. Your accounts are performing great. You don't need to stress yourself looking at numbers and statements. Just enjoy your retirement. I looked at my son, surprised. You've been monitoring my accounts. Yeah, remember? You gave me view-only access last year so I could help you if you ever needed it. I've been keeping an eye on things. Everything's fine. Better than fine. Your investments are up 12% this year. That's good. But Raymond, I still want to review the statements myself. I like to understand where my money is. Raymond's smile stayed in place, but something flickered in his eyes. Mom, seriously, don't worry about finances. That's what I'm here for. You worked for 41 years managing other people's money. You deserve to relax and not think about it. Let me handle the monitoring. If there's ever a problem, I'll tell you immediately. There was something in the way he said it. Something in the phrase, don't worry about finances, that felt wrong. Not obviously wrong. Just slightly off, like a number in a ledger that's a few cents different from what it should be. My son told me not to worry about finances, and that's when I knew I needed to look. Because in my 41 years as an accountant, I'd learned one crucial lesson. When someone tells you not to look at the numbers, that's exactly when you need to look. So that night, I went home and logged into my primary investment account, the one with about $300,000 of my retirement savings, the account Raymond supposedly had view-only access to. I entered my username and password. The system prompted me for my two-factor authentication code. I entered it. And then I saw a message that made my blood run cold. Your password was changed 47 days ago. If you did not make this change, please contact customer service immediately. I hadn't changed my password in over a year, which meant someone else had, someone who had access to my account. I called the investment company's 24-hour customer service line. This is Adelaide Wright. I'm showing that my password was changed 47 days ago, but I didn't change it. Can you tell me what happened? The representative typed for a moment. Mrs. Wright, according to our records, the password was changed via our secure online portal using your correct login credentials and two-factor authentication code. But I didn't change it. Someone else must have accessed my account. Do you have anyone else authorized on the account? My son has view-only access, but that shouldn't allow him to change passwords or make transactions. More typing. Mrs. Wright, I'm showing that your son Raymond Wright was upgraded from view-only access to full account authority 6 weeks ago. He has complete control over the account now. He can make trades, transfers, and changes. My hands started shaking. I didn't authorize that upgrade. According to our records, you called our customer service line on September 14th and requested the upgrade. You verified your identity with your social security number and account details. I never made that call. I didn't upgrade his access. Mrs. Wright, if you're saying this change was unauthorized, that's a serious matter. I need to transfer you to our fraud department. Over the next hour, I spoke with fraud investigators, verified my identity multiple times, and learned the full scope of what had happened. Someone had called the investment company pretending to be me. They'd had my social security number, my account number, my mother's maiden name, all the information needed to verify identity. They'd upgraded Raymond from view only to full access. Then they'd changed my password so I couldn't log in to see what was happening. Mrs. Wright, has there been any unusual activity on the account since the access was upgraded? I don't know. I haven't been able to access it. Let me check. Mrs. Wright, I'm seeing multiple transactions. Large transfers out of your account. How much? Over the past 6 weeks, approximately $185,000 has been transferred out of this account to various external accounts. I couldn't breathe. $185,000, more than half of what I had in that investment account. Gone. Where did it go? I'm seeing transfers to what appear to be personal bank accounts. Mrs. Wright, I need to freeze this account immediately to prevent any additional unauthorized transactions. And I strongly recommend you file a police report. What you're describing, someone impersonating you to gain account access and then transferring funds, that's identity theft and fraud. After I hung up with the fraud department, I sat in my quiet house, my mind racing. Raymond had been monitoring my accounts. Raymond had view-only access that had somehow been upgraded to full control. Raymond had told me not to worry about finances just hours before I tried to log in and discovered the problem. Was Raymond the one who'd called pretending to be me? Had my own son stolen $185,000 from my retirement account? I didn't want to believe it. Raymond was my son. I'd raised him. I'd put him through college. I'd helped him when he struggled. Surely he wouldn't steal from me. But the numbers didn't lie. And my accountant's brain was already putting the pieces together in a pattern I couldn't ignore. My son told me not to worry about finances. That's when I looked. And what I found would reveal a betrayal so systematic, so calculated, that it would shatter everything I thought I knew about the son I'd raised. But before I tell you what I discovered when I dug deeper into my accounts, before I reveal the full extent of what Raymond had been doing while telling me not to worry, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Click it now. Then smash that like button, because this story is going to show you why you should never stop paying attention to your money, no matter how much you trust the person telling you not to worry. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to hear what happened when I followed my accountant's instincts and investigated what my son had been hiding. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me today. Because what I discovered by looking at my finances when my son told me not to, about what he'd been doing behind my back for months, it's going to shock you just like it shocked me. And it taught me that sometimes the people telling you not to worry are the exact people you should be worried about. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about my relationship with Raymond and about how he ended up with access to my accounts in the first place. To understand what happened, you need to understand my background and how careful I've always been with money. I grew up poor. My father worked in a factory. My mother cleaned houses. We had enough to eat and a roof over our heads, but there was never extra money, never luxuries. I learned early that financial security didn't come from luck, it came from discipline and planning. I put myself through college working 2 jobs, got my accounting degree and my CPA certification, started working for a small accounting firm, and built a career preparing taxes, auditing books, and helping small business owners understand their finances. I married my husband Frank when I was 27. He was a high school teacher. We lived modestly on our combined incomes and saved aggressively. By the time Frank died of a heart attack at 52, we'd built up $200,000 in savings and paid off our mortgage. Frank's death left me alone with our 2 sons, Raymond, who was 24, and Owen, who was 21. The life insurance gave me another $150,000, which I invested carefully. I kept working, kept saving, and by the time I retired at 65, I had $480,000 across various accounts, investment accounts, savings, CDs, retirement funds. Not wealthy, but comfortable, more than enough to live on for the rest of my life if I was careful. Raymond had always been my ambitious son. He went to business school, got a job in marketing, and seemed to be doing well. He married a woman named Pamela when he was 29. They had 2 kids, my grandchildren, Zoe and Carter. But over the years, I noticed Raymond spent money freely. Expensive house, new cars, lavish vacations, private schools for the kids. Raymond, can you afford all this? Mom, I make good money. Pamela makes good money, we're fine. But are you saving? Building emergency funds? We have some savings. Mom, don't worry about our finances. We're adults. We know what we're doing. But I did worry, because I'd seen too many people who looked successful on the outside, but were drowning in debt behind closed doors. Raymond would occasionally ask me for money. Mom, can you lend us $5,000 just until my bonus comes through? I'd lend it. He'd promise to pay me back. He rarely did. Over the years, Raymond borrowed about $30,000 from me, always with good reasons, always with promises to repay. I kept careful records, dates, amounts, what the money was supposedly for. That's what accountants do. About 2 years ago, Raymond started taking more interest in my finances. Mom, how are your investments performing? Fine, I review them quarterly. Everything's on track. What's your asset allocation? Are you properly diversified? Raymond, I was an accountant for 41 years. I understand portfolio management. I know, but Mom, things have changed since you retired. Investment strategies have evolved. You might be missing opportunities. I'm happy with my conservative approach. At my age, I prioritize security over growth. But conservative doesn't mean you should ignore opportunities. Mom, let me look at your accounts, just to make sure you're optimized. I hesitated. I didn't love the idea of Raymond reviewing my finances, but he seemed genuinely interested in helping, and he did have a business degree. You can look, but you can't make any changes. View only. Of course, I just want to help you make sure you're getting the best returns possible. So I gave Raymond view-only access to my main investment account, the one with about $300,000. He could see my holdings, my performance, my transactions, but he couldn't make trades or transfers. Or so I thought. For about a year, Raymond would occasionally mention my accounts. Mom, your tech stocks are doing great, or you might want to consider rebalancing your bond allocation. I appreciated his interest. It seemed like a son caring about his mother's financial well-being. Then, about 3 months ago, Raymond started visiting more frequently. He'd drop by unannounced. He'd offer to help with various tasks around the house, fixing things, organizing my office, updating my computer. Once I came home from grocery shopping to find Raymond in my home office. Mom, you're back early. I was just checking if your printer needed ink. But my printer was in the living room. Why would he be in my office to check on the printer? Another time, I noticed my mail had been disturbed. I keep my mail stacked in a specific way on my desk. It's an accounting habit, everything organized and orderly. But someone had gone through it and put it back slightly wrong. I started to wonder if Raymond was looking for something, but I couldn't figure out what. All my account information was digital. I didn't keep sensitive documents lying around. Then, about 6 weeks ago, I got a text message on my phone. It was from my investment company. Your security code is 847,392. Use this code to verify your identity. I didn't remember requesting a security code, but sometimes these companies send codes for login attempts, so I didn't think much of it at the time. Now, looking back, I realize what happened. Raymond was calling the investment company pretending to be me. The company sent me a security code to verify the caller's identity. Raymond was at my house, saw the text message on my phone, and used the code to verify himself as me. That's how he upgraded his access from view-only to full control. He impersonated me on a call, had my personal information, and used the security code from my phone to convince the company he was me. It was sophisticated, planned, calculated. And for 6 weeks after gaining full control of my account, Raymond had been systematically transferring money out. $185,000 total, more than half of what I had in that account. The night I discovered the fraud, I didn't sleep. I spent hours going through every account statement I could access, checking every transaction, looking for patterns. What I found was worse than I'd imagined, because it wasn't just the one investment account. Raymond had gotten access to other accounts too. My savings account at my primary bank, the one with about $80,000 for emergencies and living expenses, showed unusual activity. I'd been added as a joint owner with Raymond 3 months ago. I never authorized that, but the bank records showed I'd supposedly come in with Raymond and signed the papers. Except I hadn't. I'd never been to the bank with Raymond to add him to my accounts. Someone had forged my signature on the bank paperwork, and I had a terrible suspicion about who. Over the past 3 months, there had been transfers from my savings account totaling $45,000, withdrawn in increments of $5,000 to $10,000 every week or two. Small enough not to trigger fraud alerts, but large enough to drain the account quickly. My money market account showed similar activity. Raymond added as joint owner, transfers out totaling $30,000. In total, across all my accounts, I'd lost about $260,000 in the past 6 weeks to 3 months, more than half of my entire retirement savings. My son, the boy I'd raised, put through college, helped whenever he needed it, had systematically stolen my retirement money while telling me not to worry about finances. And the worst part? I'd almost believed him. I'd almost listened when he told me not to look at my accounts. If I hadn't trusted my accountant's instincts, if I hadn't noticed that slight wrongness in his tone when he said, "Don't worry," I might not have discovered the theft until it was too late. My son told me not to worry about finances. That's when I looked. And what I found was a betrayal so complete, so methodical, that I knew I had to act immediately before the rest of my money disappeared. The next morning, I called the police. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The police officer who took my report was a young woman named Detective Sarah Huang. She listened carefully as I explained everything: the unauthorized account access, the forged signatures, the $260,000 in stolen funds. "Mrs. Wright, this is elder financial abuse. It's a serious crime. But I need to be honest with you. Cases involving family members are complicated. Your son will likely claim you gave him permission to access the accounts." I didn't give permission. I gave him view-only access to one account, nothing more. I believe you, but proving fraud when family members have some level of authorized access is challenging. Mrs. Wright, do you have documentation showing exactly what access you authorized versus what he took? I pulled out my folder. I'd spent the entire night preparing documentation, printed emails showing I'd only authorized view-only access, bank statements showing the forged signature adding Raymond as joint owner, investment company records showing the unauthorized upgrade. Detective Huang looked through everything, her expression growing more serious. "This is good. This shows a clear pattern of unauthorized access and fraud. Mrs. Wright, I'm going to open a criminal investigation. I'll need to interview your son and get records from the financial institutions. This will take time." How much time? Weeks, maybe months. Financial fraud investigations move slowly. But Mrs. Wright, in the meantime, I strongly recommend you freeze all your accounts. Prevent any further unauthorized access. I've already contacted the investment company. They've frozen that account, but I need to check my other accounts at other banks. Do that today. And Mrs. Wright, don't confront your son directly. Let me handle that as part of the investigation. After meeting with Detective Huang, I spent the rest of the day calling banks and financial institutions, freezing accounts, changing passwords, removing Raymond's access anywhere he had it. I also called a locksmith and had my house locks changed. If Raymond had been coming into my house without permission, going through my things, I needed to make sure he couldn't do it anymore. By evening, I'd secured all my remaining accounts. I had about $220. Zero left across various accounts, Less than half of what I'd started with, but at least the bleeding had stopped. Then Raymond called. His voice was tense, angry. "Mom, what did you do? I just tried to log into your investment account and my access is gone. The bank called me asking questions about transactions. Did you report me to the police?" I stayed calm. "Raymond, did you steal $260,000 from my accounts?" "Steal? Mom, I didn't steal anything. I borrowed money from your accounts. Money you don't even need. You have plenty. You were just going to leave it sitting there doing nothing." "Borrowed? Raymond, borrowing requires asking permission. Taking money without permission is theft. You gave me access to the accounts. I gave you view-only access to one account. I never authorized you to upgrade that access. I never signed papers making you joint owner on my bank accounts. Raymond, you impersonated me to investment companies and banks. You forged my signature. That's fraud." "I didn't forge anything. You must have forgotten signing those papers. Mom, this is exactly why I needed to help you manage your finances. You're getting confused about what you did and didn't authorize." I felt a chill. He was already building his defense, claiming I was confused, that I'd forgotten giving him permission. "I'm not confused. I keep meticulous records. I have emails showing I only authorized view-only access. I have documentation proving I never signed bank papers. Raymond, I filed a police report. You're being investigated for elder financial abuse." There was silence. Then Raymond's voice turned cold. "You called the police on me, your own son. Mom, do you know what this could do to me? I could go to jail. I could lose my job. My family could be destroyed." "You should have thought about that before you stole from me." "I didn't steal. I took money that's going to be mine anyway when you die. I just needed it now instead of later. Mom, I'm in financial trouble. We're about to lose our house. I'm drowning in debt. I needed help and you have more money than you'll ever spend. So you stole from me instead of asking for help." "I knew you'd say no. You always say no when I ask for money. You have $500,000 and you act like you're poor. You could have helped me save my family, but you chose to hoard your money instead." "Raymond, it's my money. I worked 41 years to save it. It's for my retirement, my security, my future. You had no right to take it." "I had every right. I'm your son. Family is supposed to help family, but you care more about money than you care about me." "I care about you, but I won't let you steal from me. Raymond, you need to return the money." He laughed bitterly. "It's gone, Mom. I used it to pay off debts, to catch up on the mortgage, to keep my family afloat. There's nothing to return. So what are you going to do? Send me to prison? Destroy your own son over money?" "I'm not destroying you. You destroyed yourself by committing crimes. Raymond, the money needs to be returned. If you don't have it, you'll need to sell assets, take out loans, do whatever you need to do. But that money belongs to me and I want it back." "You're not getting it back. And you know what, Mom? Go ahead and press charges. Tell the police. Tell everyone what a terrible son I am. But you'll be the one who ends up alone. Pamela won't let you see Zoe and Carter anymore. My brother Owen will take my side because he knows how cold and selfish you are. You'll die alone with your money, and it'll be exactly what you deserve." He hung up, and I sat in my quiet house, shaking from the confrontation. Over the next few days, several things happened. Detective Huang called to tell me she'd interviewed Raymond. "He admitted to accessing your accounts and transferring money, but he claims you'd given him verbal permission and later forgot due to memory issues." "That's a lie. I never gave permission." "I believe you, but Mrs. Wright, he's going to make this case about your competence. He'll claim you authorized everything and now you're confused. We need strong evidence to counter that narrative." "What kind of evidence?" "Medical records showing you're cognitively sound. Documentation of the specific permissions you gave. Evidence that he obtained access fraudulently. Mrs. Wright, I'm recommending you get a comprehensive cognitive evaluation from a qualified doctor. We need to establish on the record that you're completely capable of managing your affairs." I made an appointment with Dr. Leonard Banks, a geriatric psychiatrist who specialized in cognitive assessments. He spent 4 hours testing my memory, reasoning, judgment, and cognitive function. At the end, he smiled. Mrs. Wright, your cognitive function is excellent. You score in the 95th percentile for your age group. There's absolutely no evidence of memory impairment or confusion. Your ability to recall specific dates, numbers, and details is actually better than most people half your age. Can you document that for the police investigation? Absolutely. I'll prepare a comprehensive report. Mrs. Wright, your son's claim that you're confused is not supported by any medical evidence. I also met with an attorney, a woman named Rachel Foster who specialized in elder financial abuse cases. Mrs. Wright, you have a strong case. The evidence shows your son fraudulently obtained access to your accounts and transferred money without authorization. But recovering the money will be challenging. Why? Because he's already spent it. Even if we win a judgment against him, if he doesn't have assets to seize, you might not recover everything. Mrs. Wright, how much do you think Raymond has in assets? I don't know. He lives in an expensive house, drives new cars, has the kids in private school. But he told me he's drowning in debt. We need to investigate his financial situation. Find out what he owns, what he owes, what we can potentially recover. I'm going to hire a forensic accountant to trace where your money went and what assets Raymond has. Over the next 3 weeks, Rachel's forensic accountant, a man named Stephen Park, investigated Raymond's finances. What he found was shocking. Mrs. Wright, your son is in worse financial shape than he probably told you. He and Pamela have $340,000 in debt. Credit cards, personal loans, second mortgage, car loans. They're behind on almost all of it. The bank has started foreclosure proceedings on their house. So he really was desperate for money. Desperate enough to commit fraud. But here's what's interesting. I traced where your money went. The $260,000 Raymond stole, about $180,000 went to paying down debts. But $80,000 went somewhere else. Where? To an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. An account in Raymond's name only, not joint with Pamela. Mrs. Wright, your son wasn't just stealing to save his family. He was hiding money offshore. I felt sick. Raymond had taken my retirement money, used most of it to pay his debts, but hidden $80,000 for himself. Money that Pamela probably didn't even know about. Can we recover the offshore money? It's difficult but possible. We'd need to get a court order. But Mrs. Wright, the existence of that offshore account is strong evidence of criminal intent. People don't hide money in the Cayman Islands by accident. This shows Raymond planned to steal from you and hide the proceeds. I shared this information with Detective Huang. She was very interested in the offshore account. This changes things. Mr. Wright isn't just claiming he borrowed money with permission. He actively hid stolen funds in a secret account. That's money laundering. Mrs. Wright, I'm going to refer this to the district attorney. Your son is looking at serious criminal charges. 2 days later, Raymond was arrested, charged with elder financial abuse, fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. His bail was set at $100,000. Pamela called me, crying. Adelaide, Raymond's in jail. He needs bail money. Can you help us? Help you? Pamela, Raymond stole $260,000 from me. Why would I give him bail money? Because he's your son. Adelaide, please. I know what he did was wrong, but he was trying to save our family. We were losing everything. He made a terrible mistake, but he doesn't deserve to be in jail. He doesn't deserve to be in jail? Pamela, he committed multiple felonies. He stole my retirement money. He forged my signature. He hid money in offshore accounts. Those are crimes. But he's the father of your grandchildren. Zoe and Carter need their dad. Adelaide, if you press charges, if you testify against him, he could go to prison for years. The kids will grow up without a father. Raymond made those choices, not me. Pamela, he needs to face consequences. Consequences? You're going to destroy our entire family over money. Adelaide, I always knew you were cold, but I didn't think you'd do this to your own grandchildren. I'm not doing anything to anyone. Raymond did this. He chose to commit crimes. He chose to put himself in this position. We need that money back to pay the mortgage. Without it, we're losing the house. The kids will be homeless. Is that what you want? What I want is my $260,000 back. Pamela, if you're losing the house, that's because Raymond spent years living beyond his means and then stole from his own mother instead of making better financial choices. You're a heartless woman. I hope you enjoy your money while your grandchildren suffer. She hung up, and I felt the weight of everything that was happening. My family was imploding. My son was facing prison. My grandchildren were being hurt by their father's choices. But I also knew I hadn't caused this. Raymond had caused this by stealing from me. 3 days after Raymond's arrest, I got a visitor. My younger son Owen showed up at my door. "Mom, we need to talk about Raymond." I let Owen in. We sat in my living room and I waited for him to speak. "Mom, Raymond called me from jail. He's desperate. He's scared. And he asked me to talk to you about dropping the charges." "I'm not dropping the charges." "Mom, he's your son, my brother. He made a mistake." "A mistake? Owen, he stole $260,000 from me. He committed fraud. He hid money in offshore accounts. That's not a mistake, that's a crime spree." "He was desperate. Mom, did you know Raymond and Pamela were about to lose their house? That they owe hundreds of thousands in debt. Raymond was trying to save his family. By destroying mine. Owen, that money was my retirement, my security. What am I supposed to live on now that half my savings is gone?" "You still have plenty. Mom, you have over $200,000 left. That's more than most people have when they retire. You'll be fine." "That's not the point. The point is Raymond stole from me, and you're asking me to just let it go." Owen's expression was pained. "I'm asking you to remember that he's your son, that he's made mistakes, but he doesn't deserve to go to prison. Mom, if you testify against him, if you help the prosecution build their case, Raymond could get 5 to 10 years. His kids will grow up without a father. Pamela will be a single mother. Is that what you want?" "What I want is for Raymond to face consequences for his actions and return my money." "He can't return money he doesn't have. Mom, be realistic. Even if Raymond wanted to pay you back, he's bankrupt. There's nothing to recover. So what's the point of sending him to prison? It won't get your money back. It'll just destroy his life and hurt innocent people. The point is accountability. Owen, if I don't press charges, what message does that send? That family members can steal from elderly relatives without consequences. That all they have to do is claim they were desperate and everything's forgiven. I'm not saying forgive him. I'm saying don't destroy him. Mom, work out a payment plan. Let him pay you back over time, but don't send him to prison." "A payment plan with what money? He's bankrupt." "He'll get back on his feet eventually. He'll get a job. He can pay you back over years. Mom, you're 76. You have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life. Why not show some mercy to your son who made terrible choices out of desperation?" I looked at Owen, my younger son, who'd always been the peacemaker in the family, who wanted everyone to get along, who couldn't stand conflict. "Owen, are you taking Raymond's side because you agree with what he did, or because you just want this to go away?" "I'm taking the side of family. Mom, we're all we have. Dad's been gone for years. You, me, and Raymond, we're all that's left. If you destroy Raymond, you destroy what's left of our family. Raymond destroyed our family when he stole from me. But you don't have to finish the destruction by sending him to prison. Mom, you have a choice. You can choose revenge or you can choose mercy. Choose mercy." After Owen left, I sat alone wrestling with the decision. Was Owen right? Would sending Raymond to prison just create more pain without solving anything? But then I thought about the offshore account. The $80,000 Raymond had hidden in the Cayman Islands. Money Pamela didn't know about. Money he'd squirreled away for himself while claiming he was trying to save his family. That offshore account told me everything I needed to know. Raymond wasn't a desperate father making a terrible mistake. He was a calculated thief who'd planned this systematically, who'd hidden money for himself, who'd only gotten caught because I'd followed my instincts when he told me not to worry about finances. My son told me not to worry about finances. That's when I looked. And what I found showed me that Raymond had been planning this theft for months, that he'd stolen far more than he admitted, and that he'd hidden assets while pretending to be bankrupt. And I knew I couldn't show mercy to someone who'd shown me none. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 2 weeks after Owen's visit, the district attorney's office called me. "Mrs. Wright, this is Assistant District Attorney James Caldwell. I'm handling your son's criminal case. I need to meet with you to discuss your testimony." We met the next day in his office. James Caldwell was a man in his early 40s, professional and direct. "Mrs. Wright, your son's attorney has made a plea offer. Raymond pleads guilty to 1 count of elder financial abuse in exchange for probation, restitution, and the other charges being dropped." "What does that mean exactly?" "It means Raymond wouldn't go to prison. He'd be on probation for 5 years, required to pay you back the $260,000, and if he violates probation, he'd face prison time. The fraud, identity theft, and money laundering charges would be dismissed." "And if I say no to the plea?" "We go to trial. If we win, which I believe we would given the evidence, Raymond faces significant prison time, probably 5 to 8 years. But Mrs. Wright, there's something you should know. Trials are unpredictable. There's always a chance a jury could find him not guilty or convict on lesser charges. The plea deal guarantees a conviction and guarantees restitution." "But probation means he doesn't go to prison at all." "Correct, he'd have a criminal record. He'd face restrictions on his freedom, but he wouldn't be incarcerated. Mrs. Wright, I need to know, are you willing to accept this plea? Or do you want to push for trial and potentially prison time?" I thought about Owen's words, about mercy, about family, about the grandchildren who'd grow up without a father if Raymond went to prison. But I also thought about the offshore account, about Raymond's calculated theft, about him telling me not to worry about finances while he systematically stole my retirement. Can the plea deal require Raymond to return the $80,000 from the offshore account immediately? We can try to negotiate that, but Mrs. Wright, even with a court order, recovering offshore funds is difficult and time-consuming. It could take years. Then I don't accept the plea. If Raymond wants to avoid prison, he needs to return that $80,000 within 30 days as a condition of the plea. That proves he actually has access to that money and isn't as bankrupt as he claims. That's a tough condition. His attorney might not agree. Then we go to trial. "Mr. Caldwell, my son hid money offshore while stealing from me. If he can't or won't return that hidden money, it proves he's not truly remorseful or willing to make restitution. I'm not agreeing to a deal that lets him keep stolen funds hidden away." James nodded. "I'll present your condition to his attorney. Let's see what they say." 3 days later, Raymond's attorney called James with a response. Raymond would agree to return the $80,000 from the offshore account within 30 days as part of a modified plea deal. "Mrs. Wright, he's agreed, but his attorney says this is every asset Raymond has. After returning the $80,000, he'll have nothing left. He won't be able to make any additional restitution payments until he finds employment." So I get $80,000 back out of the $260,000 he stole, and I'm supposed to wait years for the rest. The plea deal would require him to make monthly restitution payments once he's employed, probably $500 to $1,000 per month, depending on his income. At that rate, full restitution could take 15 to 20 years. I'll be dead before I'm fully repaid. Possibly. Mrs. Wright, this is the reality of financial fraud cases. Even when we get convictions, recovering the full amount is often impossible. You have to decide, do you want the guaranteed $80,000 plus modest monthly payments and a conviction? Or do you want to roll the dice on a trial that might get you a longer prison sentence, but still won't recover money Raymond doesn't have? I thought about it. $80,000 immediately was better than nothing, and at least Raymond would have a criminal conviction on his record. I'll accept the plea. But I wanted in writing that if Raymond misses even one restitution payment, he goes to prison immediately. No second chances. I can negotiate that into the agreement. Mrs. Wright, you're making a practical choice. The plea hearing was held 2 weeks later. I sat in the courtroom watching as Raymond stood before the judge. The judge read through the plea agreement. Mr. Wright, you're pleading guilty to 1 count of elder financial abuse. Do you understand that this is a felony conviction that will remain on your record permanently? Yes, Your Honor. And you understand the terms of this plea. You will return $80,000 to your mother within 30 days. You will make monthly restitution payments of no less than $500 per month once employed. You will serve 5 years probation. And if you violate any term of probation or miss any restitution payment, you will serve 5 years in prison. Do you understand and accept these terms? Raymond looked broken, defeated. Yes, Your Honor. Very well. The court accepts your plea. Mr. Wright, let me be clear. You stole from your own mother. You took her retirement savings. You violated her trust in the worst possible way. The only reason you're not going to prison today is because your mother has chosen to show you more mercy than you showed her. Don't waste this opportunity. The judge banged his gavel. Raymond was released on probation. And I left the courthouse knowing I'd gotten a partial victory, $80,000 returned, a criminal conviction, guaranteed restitution payments. But it still felt hollow, because I'd lost $180,000 that I'd probably never fully recover. The next day, I received a wire transfer. $80,000 from Raymond's offshore account transferred back to my investment account. He'd actually done it, actually returned the hidden money. I now had $300,000 total, my remaining $220,000 plus the returned $80,000. I was still down $180,000 from my original $480,000, but at least the bleeding had stopped. Over the next few weeks, several things happened. Pamela filed for divorce from Raymond. She discovered the offshore account through the court proceedings and was furious that Raymond had hidden money from her. He told me we were broke, she said when she called to tell me about the divorce. He said we had nothing, but he'd hidden $80,000 in the Cayman Islands. Adelaide, I defended him. I thought he was stealing from you to save our family, but he was stealing for himself. I'm sorry, Pamela. I know this is hard on you and the kids. Don't apologize. You didn't cause this. Raymond did. Adelaide, I want you to know, I'm going to make sure Zoe and Carter still see you. What Raymond did doesn't change that you're their grandmother. They need you. I was grateful for that. At least I wouldn't lose my relationship with my grandchildren over Raymond's crimes. Raymond's house went into foreclosure. He and Pamela sold it in a short sale, splitting what little equity remained. Raymond moved to a small apartment. Pamela moved back in with her parents with the kids. Raymond struggled to find employment with a felony conviction on his record. For 6 months, he couldn't make any restitution payments because he had no income. I waited, frustrated but patient, because the plea agreement said payments were required once he was employed, not immediately. Then I received a call from Raymond. It was the first time we'd spoken since the plea hearing. Mom, I got a job. Warehouse work. It doesn't pay much, but it's something. I'll start making the $500 monthly payments next month like the agreement requires. Good. Mom, I also wanted to say, I'm sorry. I know I've said it before, but I need you to know I mean it. What I did was unforgivable. I betrayed you. I stole from you. I lied to you. And I did it all while telling you not to worry about finances. Why did you tell me not to worry? What was the strategy there? Raymond was quiet for a moment. I needed to keep you from looking at your accounts. I knew if you checked, you'd see the transfers. So I tried to convince you everything was fine, that you didn't need to worry, that I was monitoring things for you. I thought if I could keep you from checking for just a few more months, I could take enough to solve all my financial problems. Then I'd stop, and you'd never notice because you rarely checked your accounts anyway. But I did notice, because when you told me not to worry, it triggered my accountant's instincts, made me suspicious. I know, Mom, if I could go back and undo everything, I would. But I can't. All I can do now is pay you back, little by little, for however many years it takes. Raymond, there's something I need to understand. The offshore account. The hidden $80,000. That wasn't about saving your family. That was about you hiding money for yourself. Why? He sighed. Because I knew if I paid all the debts, there'd be nothing left. I'd have solved the immediate crisis, but I'd have no cushion, no emergency fund, nothing. I thought if I kept some money hidden, I'd have a safety net. But Mom, I see now how that looks. I see how it proves I was stealing for selfish reasons, not desperate ones. You were stealing regardless. But yes, the hidden account made it much worse. I know, and Mom, Pamela left me because of it. She's right to leave. I don't blame her. I destroyed everything, my family, my relationship with you, my career, my reputation. And for what? The money's gone anyway. I'm worse off now than I was before I stole from you. That's what happens when you make terrible choices. I'm learning that. Mom, I know you probably never want to see me again. I know what I did means we can't have a normal mother-son relationship. But I want you to know, I'm in therapy. I'm working on understanding why I made these choices. Why I felt entitled to your money. Why I thought stealing from you was somehow justified. I'm trying to become a better person. I hope you succeed, Raymond. For your own sake and for your children's sake. Over the next year, Raymond made his monthly $500 payments faithfully. They showed up on the first of every month without fail. Small amounts compared to what he owed, but consistent. I tracked each payment in a spreadsheet, date, amount, running total. After a year, he'd paid me $6,000. At this rate, it would take 30 years to repay the remaining $174,000. I'd be 106 years old. But I accepted it, because the alternative, sending Raymond to prison, wouldn't have got me my money back any faster. At least this way, there was some restitution. Owen, my younger son, started visiting me regularly. He felt guilty about initially taking Raymond's side. Mom, I was wrong. I thought you were being vindictive. I didn't understand how calculated Raymond's theft was. The offshore account, that changed everything for me. That showed me Raymond wasn't desperate, he was calculating. I'm glad you see that now. I should have seen it from the beginning. Mom, I'm sorry I asked you to show mercy without understanding the full situation. You were trying to keep the family together. I understand that impulse. But Owen, sometimes keeping the family together means holding people accountable, not covering for them. 2 years after Raymond's conviction, something unexpected happened. I received a call from an attorney representing the investment company where Raymond had stolen the initial $185,000. Mrs. Wright, I'm calling because the company has completed an internal investigation into how your son was able to fraudulently gain access to your account. We've determined that our security protocols failed. Our representative should never have upgraded your son's access based solely on a phone call, even with identity verification. Mrs. Wright, the company is prepared to offer you a settlement. What kind of settlement? We're offering to reimburse you $125,000. The amount our investigation determined was stolen from your account after the unauthorized access upgrade. This is in exchange for you signing a release, agreeing not to sue the company for the security breach. $125,000. That would bring my total recovery to $211,000 out of the $260,000 stolen. I'd still be short $49,000, but it was far better than I'd expected. I'll need to review the settlement agreement with my attorney. Of course, we'll send the documents to your attorney for review. I called Rachel Foster, my attorney. She reviewed the settlement offer. Mrs. Wright, this is a good offer. The company is acknowledging their failure and compensating you for it. I recommend accepting. What about Raymond's restitution obligation? If I get $125, zero from the company, does that reduce what he owes me? That's negotiable. We can structure it so the company's payment doesn't reduce Raymond's obligation. Since he stole the full amount, he should still owe you the full restitution. Or we can apply the $125,000 to Raymond's debt, reducing what he still owes. I want it applied to his debt. Raymond should get credit for the company's payment. It reduces his remaining obligation to $49,000. That's more achievable for him to actually repay. That's generous of you. It's practical. At $500 per month, Raymond can pay off $49,000 in about 8 years. That's realistic. Expecting him to pay $174,000 over 30 years wasn't realistic. I'd be dead before he finished. Rachel structured the settlement that way. I received $125,000 from the investment company. That payment was credited against Raymond's restitution obligation, reducing his remaining debt to $49,000. I called Raymond to tell him, "Your restitution obligation has been reduced to $49,000. The investment company paid me $125,000 as part of a settlement, and I applied it to your debt." Raymond was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You didn't have to do that. You could have kept the company's money and still required me to pay you the full $174,000. I could have, but that wouldn't have been realistic. Raymond, I want you to actually finish paying me back. At $500 per month, you can pay off $49,000 in about 8 years. That's achievable." "Thank you, Mom. I don't deserve that consideration, but thank you." "You're right, you don't deserve it, but I'm giving it to you anyway, because I want this debt resolved while I'm still alive, and because maybe, if you finish paying it off, we can eventually rebuild some kind of relationship." Over the next few years, Raymond continued his monthly payments. He also continued therapy, worked on rebuilding his relationship with his kids, and slowly put his life back together. Pamela eventually remarried, a good man who treated Zoe and Carter well. Raymond struggled with that at first, but eventually accepted it. "Mom, it's hard watching my kids call another man dad. But I caused this. I destroyed my marriage. Pamela deserves to be happy, and the kids deserve a stable home." 5 years after Raymond's conviction, he got a better job. Not his old marketing career. He couldn't get back into that with a felony record, but a management position at a logistics company that paid decently. He increased his monthly payments from $500 to $1,000. "Mom, I want to finish paying you back sooner. At $1,000 per month, I can have the debt paid off in about 4 more years." "I appreciate that, Raymond." I also wanted to ask, Zoe is applying to colleges. She's smart, got good grades, but we don't qualify for much financial aid because of Pamela's new husband's income. But Pamela and I can't afford tuition. Mom, I know I have no right to ask this after what I did, but is there any way you could help with Zoe's education? I thought about it. I had about $425,000 now. My remaining $300,000 plus the $125,000 settlement. I'd rebuilt my savings to near my original amount through careful budgeting and modest investment growth. "I'll make you a deal. If you finish paying off your restitution debt in full, every penny of the remaining $49,000, I'll contribute $10,000 per year toward Zoe's college expenses. And the same for Carter when he goes to college. But Raymond, this is contingent on you completing your restitution. If you miss payments or drag this out, the offer is void." "I'll finish paying you back. I promise. Mom, thank you. This means everything to Zoe." Raymond kept his promise. He paid $1,000 per month faithfully. And 3 years later, 8 years after his conviction, he made his final restitution payment. I received the last $1,000 and updated my spreadsheet. Total recovered, $260,000. The full amount stolen, fully repaid through the combination of the offshore account return, the investment company settlement, and Raymond's monthly payments. I called Raymond. "I received your final payment. Your debt is paid in full." "I can't believe it's finally over. Mom, 8 years of payments. It felt like it would never end, but it's done. I've paid you back everything." "You have. And Raymond, I'm proud of you for following through. A lot of people wouldn't have." "I owed you, not just the money, I owed you accountability, consistency, proof that I could change. Mom, I know paying you back doesn't undo what I did, but I hope it's a start. It's more than a start. Raymond, you've shown me through years of action that you're not the same person who stole from me, that you've genuinely changed. Does that mean we can have a relationship again? Not like before, I know that's gone forever, but something new. I thought about that. Let's start slowly. Coffee once a month, we'll talk, we'll see how it goes. Raymond, I'm willing to try. 8 years after my son told me not to worry about finances. 8 years after that moment triggered my accountant's instincts and led me to discover his theft. I sat across from Raymond at a coffee shop. We talked about his kids, about his job, about his therapy and growth, about the lessons he'd learned from hitting rock bottom. Mom, telling you not to worry about finances was the stupidest thing I ever said. Because of course you'd worry. Of course you'd check. You're an accountant. Numbers are your language. I thought I was being clever, keeping you from looking. Instead, I triggered the exact instinct that caught me. If you'd been smarter, you would have let me check my accounts regularly. Kept me thinking everything was normal. Your attempt to keep me from looking is what made me look. I know. Mom, in a weird way, I'm glad you caught me when you did. If I'd gotten away with it longer, I would have stolen everything. I would have destroyed you financially. Catching me when you did saved both of us. Maybe, but Raymond, I hope you understand, I'll never fully trust you again. Not with money, not with access to my accounts. That trust is gone forever. I understand, and I don't blame you. Mom, I just hope we can build something new. Something based on honesty instead of the assumption that you'll always bail me out. We finished our coffee and made plans to meet again the next month. And I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in 8 years. Hope that maybe, eventually, we could have some kind of mother-son relationship again. Not the relationship we'd had before. That was destroyed beyond repair. But something new. Something earned through accountability, restitution, and years of changed behavior. My son told me not to worry about finances. That's when I looked. And what I found led to devastation, betrayal, criminal conviction, and years of painful rebuilding. But it also led to recovery, to accountability, to growth, and eventually to a fragile new beginning built on honesty instead of blind trust. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 10 years after Raymond's conviction, 2 years after his final restitution payment, I received an unexpected call from a woman named Dr. Margaret Chen. She was a professor at the State University's School of Social Work. Mrs. Wright, I'm conducting research on elder financial abuse and recovery. Your case came to my attention through court records and news articles. I was wondering if you'd be willing to share your story for an academic study on how victims navigate the aftermath of family financial exploitation. I hesitated. What would that involve? An interview about your experience, how you discovered the abuse, how you responded, what the recovery process looked like. Your story is remarkable, Mrs. Wright. You're one of the few victims who actually recovered the full amount stolen and successfully prosecuted the perpetrator. Most cases don't have such complete resolution. I'd be willing to participate, but Dr. Chen, can I ask, why do most cases not have complete resolution? Several reasons. Many victims never discover the theft until it's too late. Many who do discover it don't report it because the perpetrator is family. And even when cases are prosecuted, recovering stolen funds is extremely difficult. You did something most victims don't. You caught it early, you reported it immediately, and you pursued recovery aggressively. That's why I want to study your case. Over the next few weeks, I participated in several interviews with Dr. Chen. I told her everything, about Raymond telling me not to worry about finances, about following my instincts to check my accounts, about the discovery of the theft and the investigation that followed. Mrs. Wright, what made you report Raymond to police when so many other victims choose not to? I'm an accountant. I've spent my entire career believing in rules, documentation, and accountability. When Raymond stole from me, I saw it as a crime that needed to be prosecuted, not a family matter to be handled privately. My professional training overrode my maternal instincts. Did you ever regret that decision? Many times, especially when my grandson Carter cried because his dad wasn't at his birthday party due to probation restrictions, when Pamela struggled as a single mother, when Owen stopped speaking to me for 6 months because he thought I was being vindictive. But I never regretted it enough to wish I'd done nothing, because doing nothing would have meant accepting that my son could steal my retirement and face no consequences. What would you tell other victims of family financial abuse? I thought carefully about that question. I'd tell them that family relationships don't excuse crimes, that loving someone doesn't mean letting them destroy you financially, that you have the right to protect yourself even when the threat comes from your own children. And I'd tell them to trust their instincts. If something feels wrong with your finances, investigate immediately. Don't let anyone tell you not to worry or not to look. After my interviews with Dr. Chen, she invited me to speak at a conference on elder abuse. Mrs. Wright, your story needs to be heard by professionals who work with abuse victims. Would you be willing to present at our annual conference? I agreed, and 3 months later, I stood in front of 200 social workers, attorneys, and law enforcement officers, telling my story. My son told me not to worry about finances, I said to the audience. That single sentence, "Don't worry about finances," triggered my accountant's instincts. Because in my 41 years of professional experience, I'd learned that when someone tells you not to look at numbers, that's exactly when you need to look. So I looked, and I discovered that my son had stolen $260,000 from my retirement accounts. I described the discovery, the investigation, the prosecution, and the long recovery process. Then I talked about the aftermath. 10 years later, I've recovered every dollar. My son completed his restitution. He rebuilt his life. And we've started cautiously rebuilding a relationship. But it took a decade. It took criminal prosecution. It took years of accountability. And it required me to set boundaries I never imagined I'd need with my own child. After my presentation, dozens of people approached me with questions. But one conversation stood out. An elderly woman, probably in her 80s, grabbed my hand. "Mrs. Wright, my daughter has been taking money from my accounts. Not as much as your son took from you, maybe $30,000 over 2 years. But I've been afraid to report it because she's my daughter. After hearing your story, I know what I need to do." Report it. Yes, you're right. Family relationships don't excuse crimes. I need to protect myself. Thank you for showing me that's possible. Over the next year, I became involved in elder advocacy work. I joined the board of a nonprofit organization that helped elderly people protect themselves from financial exploitation. I gave talks at senior centers about warning signs of family financial abuse. I trained bank employees on how to recognize and respond to suspected exploitation. And I heard story after story from other victims, most of them far worse off than I'd been. One woman's son had stolen $500,000, her entire life savings, and disappeared. She never recovered a penny. Another woman's daughter had taken out credit cards in her name and run up $200,000 in debt. The woman was still fighting to clear her credit 7 years later. A man's nephew had convinced him to sign a power of attorney, then sold his house and kept the proceeds. The man was homeless. My story had a relatively happy ending compared to most. I'd caught the theft early. I'd had documentation. I'd pursued prosecution. I'd eventually recovered everything. Most victims weren't so fortunate. During one speaking engagement, a social worker asked me a difficult question. "Mrs. Wright, you said you've started rebuilding a relationship with your son. Some people would say that sends the wrong message, that family members can commit terrible crimes and eventually be forgiven. How do you respond to that?" I didn't forgive Raymond because he committed a crime and apologized. I started allowing limited contact after he spent 8 years demonstrating changed behavior through consistent action. He paid back every penny. He completed probation without violations. He went to therapy. He rebuilt his relationship with his children. He got honest employment and maintained it. After 8 years of watching him actually change, I decided I was willing to try having coffee with him once a month. That's not forgiveness. That's acknowledging genuine transformation. But doesn't that encourage other family members to think they can abuse elderly relatives and eventually be welcomed back? Only if they're willing to spend nearly a decade proving they've changed. Most abusers aren't willing to do that work. Raymond was. And even with all that work, our relationship will never be what it was. He'll never have access to my finances. He'll never have my complete trust. What we have now is a cautious, limited relationship built on realistic expectations rather than blind trust. 12 years after the theft, something happened that tested everything Raymond and I had rebuilt. My younger son Owen was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He was only 58 years old. The prognosis was grim, 6 months to a year. Owen had always been the healthy one, the active one. The diagnosis was devastating. Raymond called me the day Owen told the family. "Mom, I just heard about Owen. I'm so sorry. What do you need? How can I help?" "I don't know yet. Owen's still processing. We're all still processing." "Mom, I know Owen and I haven't been close since everything that happened. But he's my brother. I want to be there for him. And for you." Over the next few months, Raymond showed up in ways I hadn't expected. He drove Owen to chemotherapy appointments. He helped organize Owen's care. He sat with me in hospital waiting rooms during Owen's treatments. And he did it all without asking for anything, without trying to use the crisis to rebuild trust or gain access to anything. He just helped. 6 months after Owen's diagnosis, Owen asked to talk to me and Raymond together. We sat in Owen's living room, Owen in a recliner, looking thin and tired, me and Raymond on the couch. "I wanted to talk to both of you about something important. Mom, I need to discuss my will and my finances. And Raymond, I need to tell you something I should have said years ago." Owen looked at Raymond. "I was wrong. When Mom first told me what you did, that you'd stolen from her, I defended you. I asked Mom to show mercy. I thought she was being vindictive. But she was right and I was wrong. Raymond, you committed serious crimes. You deserve to face consequences. And Mom, I'm sorry I didn't support you immediately. Owen, you were trying to keep the family together. I understood that. But I should have understood that keeping family together doesn't mean covering for crimes. Mom, you did the right thing. And Raymond, I need to tell you this before I die. I'm proud of how you've handled the consequences. You didn't make excuses. You paid Mom back. You actually changed. That takes character I wasn't sure you had." Raymond's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for saying that. Owen, I'm sorry about everything. Sorry for what I did to Mom. Sorry for putting you in the middle. Sorry that we lost years of being brothers because of my choices. We're brothers again now. That's what matters." Owen turned to me. "Mom, I need to talk about my estate. I have about $150,000 in savings and investments. I want it split evenly between you and Raymond." "Owen, you don't need to leave anything to me. I have enough." "I want to. Mom, you'll probably live another 10 or 15 years. Medical care gets expensive. I want you to have a cushion. And Raymond, I'm leaving you half not because you need it, but because you're my brother and I want you to have something to remember me by." "Owen, I can't take money from you." "You can and you will, both of you. This is my decision. Don't argue with a dying man." Owen passed away 4 months later, surrounded by family. At his funeral, Raymond gave a eulogy that had everyone in tears. "My brother Owen was the glue that held our family together. When I destroyed our family with my crimes, Owen tried to repair it. When Mom and I were estranged, Owen maintained relationships with both of us. When I was rebuilding my life, Owen supported me even though I didn't deserve it. And at the end, when Owen was dying, he gave me something precious, his forgiveness and his blessing. I'll miss him every day for the rest of my life." After Owen's death, Raymond and I found ourselves drawn together by grief. We'd both lost someone important. We started having coffee more frequently, twice a month instead of once. We talked about Owen, about memories, about regrets, about the family we'd been and the family we were now. "Mom, Owen's death made me realize something. Life is short. We don't know how much time we have. And I don't want to waste whatever time you have left being stuck in this formal, distant relationship. I want us to be closer. Not like we were before, I know that's impossible, but closer than we are now. What does that look like to you? I don't know exactly. Maybe family dinners occasionally. Maybe being included in holidays again. Maybe you getting to know my kids better. They're adults now, and they barely know their grandmother because of what I did. I thought about it. We can try, but Raymond, there are still boundaries. You don't ask me about my finances. You don't offer financial advice. You don't ask to borrow money. Those topics are off limits forever. I understand. And Mom, I won't violate those boundaries. I've spent 12 years learning to respect boundaries. I'm not going back to who I was. Over the next few years, Raymond and I slowly built something that resembled a normal mother-son relationship. We had Sunday dinners once a month. I attended Zoe and Carter's college graduations. Raymond and I took a day trip together to visit Owen's grave on the anniversary of his death. It wasn't the relationship we'd had before the theft. That relationship had been based on my assumption that Raymond would never hurt me and Raymond's assumption that I'd always bail him out of financial trouble. This new relationship was based on realistic expectations. I expected Raymond to respect boundaries. He expected me to enforce those boundaries. We both expected honesty instead of blind trust. 15 years after Raymond told me not to worry about finances, I turned 91 years old. My health was declining. I'd had a minor stroke and needed some assistance with daily activities. Raymond and Pamela's daughter Zoe, now 28 and a social worker herself, moved in with me to help. She'd been working in elder services and understood what I needed. Grandma Adelaide, I want to do this. You helped pay for my college. You were there when my family fell apart because of what my dad did. Let me help you now. Having Zoe, there was a blessing. She managed my medications, helped with household tasks, and made sure I was safe and cared for. One evening, Zoe and I were sitting on the porch when she said something that brought everything full circle. Grandma, can I ask you something about what happened with my dad? About him stealing from you? Of course. Do you ever regret how you handled it? Prosecuting him, making him pay everything back, all of it. I regret that it happened at all. I regret that your dad made choices that hurt so many people. But do I regret holding him accountable? No. Even though it meant years of family conflict, even though it hurt me and Carter. Zoe, I know you and Carter suffered because of the consequences your father faced, and I'm sorry for that. But you suffered more because of his choices than because of my response to those choices. If I'd done nothing, if I'd let him steal without consequences, what would that have taught you about accountability, about right and wrong? I never thought about it that way. Your father needed to face consequences, not just for my sake, but for his own, because facing those consequences is what forced him to change. If I'd just forgiven him and moved on, he'd probably still be the same person who thought stealing from family was acceptable. He's different now. He really is. Dad talks about those years, the conviction, the restitution, the rebuilding, as the time that saved his life. He says he was on a path to complete destruction and you stopped him. I didn't stop him. The consequences of his own actions stopped him. I just made sure those consequences happened. Zoe smiled. Dad also told me about the moment when everything started unraveling for him. He said he told you not to worry about finances, and you immediately went home and checked your accounts. He said he knew in that moment he'd made a fatal mistake. He had, because telling an accountant not to look at numbers is the fastest way to make them look. What made you check right then? Was it really just because he told you not to? I thought about that. It was the way he said it, something in his tone, too insistent, too eager to keep me from looking. In my professional career, I learned to recognize when someone was hiding something in the numbers. And that night at coffee, I recognized that Raymond was hiding something. I didn't know what, but I knew I needed to look. Grandma, you teach classes about elder financial abuse, right? I used to, before the stroke made it too difficult. What's the most important thing you tell people? Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong with your finances, investigate. Don't let anyone, not even family, especially not family, tell you not to worry or not to look. Because the people telling you not to worry are often the people you should worry about most. 2 years later, at age 93, my health declined further. I developed congestive heart failure and knew I didn't have much time left. I called Raymond to my bedside. Zoe was there too, along with Carter and Raymond's second wife. He'd remarried a few years after his divorce from Pamela. Raymond, I need to tell you something. I'm updating my will. I'm leaving most of my estate to charity, to organizations that help victims of elder financial abuse. But I'm leaving $50,000 to you. Raymond looked shocked. Mom, you don't need to leave me anything. I know I don't need to. I want to. Raymond, you spent 8 years paying me back. You spent 15 years proving you'd changed. That deserves acknowledgement. So you'll inherit $50,000. Use it wisely. I will. Moms, thank you. Not just for the money, for not giving up on me, for holding me accountable when I needed it, for eventually letting me back into your life. Thank you for everything. I passed away 3 weeks later, surrounded by family. At my funeral, Raymond gave another eulogy. My mother, Adelaide Wright, was the strongest woman I've ever known. 15 years ago, I betrayed her in the worst possible way. I stole her retirement savings. I violated her trust. I committed crimes against her. And she did something remarkable. She held me accountable while still leaving the door open for redemption. She prosecuted me. She made me pay back every penny. She set boundaries I couldn't cross. But she also gave me coffee once a month when I'd proven I'd changed. She helped pay for my daughter's education when I'd completed my restitution. She slowly, carefully, allowed me back into her life, not because I deserved it, but because I'd earned it through years of different behavior. My mother taught me that love doesn't mean accepting abuse. That family doesn't excuse crimes. That mercy has to be earned through accountability and change. She saved my life by refusing to enable my worst choices, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to live up to the man she helped me become. After the funeral, Zoe shared something with the family. Grandma Adelaide left detailed instructions about her estate. Most of it goes to charity, but she left something for each of us, and she left me a letter. Zoe read the letter aloud. To my dear granddaughter Zoe, you asked me once if I regretted how I handled your father's theft. This is my final answer to that question. I don't regret holding your father accountable. I don't regret prosecuting him. I don't regret making him pay back every penny, because those consequences saved him. They forced him to change. They taught him lessons he wouldn't have learned any other way. But I also don't regret eventually forgiving him. Not immediately, not easily. But after years of watching him actually change, I allowed forgiveness. Because people can change if they face real consequences and do real work. Your father did both. If I'd done nothing when I discovered the theft, your father would have continued stealing. He would have destroyed himself and everyone around him. By holding him accountable, I gave him the opportunity to hit bottom and rebuild himself into someone better. That's my legacy to you, Zoe. Don't enable people's worst behavior, even people you love. Especially people you love. Hold them accountable. Set boundaries. Demand better. And if they actually do the work to change, allow them room to be different. My son told me not to worry about finances. That's when I looked, and what I found changed everything for both of us. I lost money, but I helped save my son. I think that's a fair trade. Live well, love wisely. Trust your instincts, and never let anyone tell you not to look at the numbers. With all my love, Grandma Adelaide.